Hello everybody, welcome back to another J Mars Hands video, and we are once again talking about TNGA, the 365 mountain bike race across Georgia. This is probably going to be the last video I make about it, but I feel it's important to talk about how TNGA affects your body and mind. I saw a lot of interesting things and I'd like to talk about them, but first I'd like to take note of the new blood spots on my desk, and that's because about 5 minutes ago I was brushing off my desk to get ready for a video, and I put like a 5 or 6 millimeter long piece of glass into my finger, embedded that whole thing in there. So bled a bunch, pulled it out, took a picture, but now we're ready. And so just for all these talking videos, I guess the only other one, I've got some notes. And first we're going to talk about my body, and then my mind, and then the mind is the more interesting one, so you gotta start with the less interesting one. It's a video making one-on-one. Okay, so first, body. Of course, I was sore everywhere. My arms, my shoulders, if you mountain bike, you know about chafing, and I didn't wear any chamois because I don't usually wear chamois. I chafed a little bit on my but it was mostly manageable. I applied a little bit of like diaper cream, made it a little better. But if you go out and you're doing TNGA, a lot of people don't do chamois, and I heard that merino wool underwear, it's like the best thing you can do, because chamois, they soak up water, they get wet, and then that's just terrible. So in terms of butt protection, wool underwear, I did no underwear because I know that's how I'm most comfortable, but really you just got to get experience in doing that. My left hand is still numb as of making this video also. So these two fingers are completely numb, and then the inside of this finger and the inside of this finger, which is actually coming back a little bit, that's good because I've seen no improvement over the past like week. It's been like about a week since TNGA, and so I've seen but yeah, so completely numb. I think I've got severe carpal tunnel, but I still have full mobility, a little bit of weakness, and that's just because of this. For 62 hours, like these two bones scissor, they like cross and it pinches your nerves, and then you get numbness. So honestly, bar ends are so important. Anything there you can hold your bars like this, whether that's drop bars or bar ends, or there's these little hood things that I want to get, so important. Definitely get those. So before this, as a meme, I shaved my arms and legs, and it's kind of starting to grow back. You can see it's still smooth, but I got really bad razor bumps, and it made chafing while walking super bad. It made it really painful. I'll show you some of the like horror clips. It opened up all my pores and all filled with dirt, and they're still f***ed up. Yeah. Arms and legs very cut up. You can see it looks like I've been having a rough time, and I have, but that's the briars that have been doing it to me. And my legs are like almost worse because there's one spot on my left leg where I got hit multiple times with like this like sticks, and I was like frustrated because of that one spot. But anyway, let's talk about calories. I lost 8 pounds over the weekend. In 2.5 days, I lost 8 pounds. And that's just because of the pure calorie expenditure, and not like I wasn't eating. I'll put my calorie log in the description of what I ate, and it's not super precise because there's some things I forgot about, but I kept like most of my trash. I kept all my trash, and I wrote down everything I could remember. I ate about 10,000 calories. So I ate 10,000 calories and I lost 8 pounds, and I noticed that I lost 8 pounds because right before I weighed myself, and then afterwards I was looking in the mirror and I was like, I'm noticeably skinnier. So I went and I weighed myself. I was 148.5. Now I'm 140.5. I dropped a full BMI point over the weekend. So that was interesting. I was still hungry. I ate 10,000 calories, and you're just hungry all the time. You finish eating one thing and it buys you like 30 minutes, and then you're still eating. I ate a lot of tailwind, which is this like it's a drink powder that has 200 calories in it, and so it made it really easy to drink. And still with that, I was like struggling to stave off hunger and stay strong. And like calories were like a drug. If I stopped and I had a bunch of simple carbohydrates, it's just completely turned me around. In the last at about mile 330, so about 35 miles to go, I stopped at a gas station. It was the first gas station in a while, like, because before it was super remote. Finally found a gas station. I had 2 Sprites, a honey bun, and like a gigantic honey bun, and like a lemon like cake thing, like 2 of these lemon cakes. And I ate all that sitting on the ground in front of this gas station, and I can't tell you how good it made me feel. I felt like I could like push the last 30 miles because I felt so good. So I didn't sleep that much. I only slept about 2 hours over the entirety of the time. The rest of the time I was either riding or eating pretty much, and I didn't feel that tired. I did eat so much caffeine, like about like 3/4 of the tailwinds that I had, which is the drinkable calories, had 70 milligrams of caffeine per bottle. So like that's almost a coffee. So I was like taking in caffeine. I was taking in a lot of caffeine, especially during the night, and so I didn't feel that tired, but it did lead to some other effects that we'll talk about in a sec. I was able to keep my feet dry, which was a concern that I had. There's a lot of creek crossings. If you ride for a long time with your feet wet, you can start getting the beginnings of like a trench foot, jungle foot, whatever you call it. And it's really, really uncomfortable. But I brought 3 pairs of socks, and I hung them on the back of my bag when I changed out of them so they could kind of dry. And so in total, I switched my socks 3 times, and so I like effectively used 4 pairs of socks. And I was able to keep my feet dry. And my muscles I didn't have much like muscle pain, like fatigue. I wasn't going that hard, and I definitely felt it at times, but I was able to like get it to go away. And I think part of that is I kept my electrolytes really balanced. I had electrolyte pills, and I was able to take those really easily whenever I could feel my electrolytes getting unbalanced. I find that when my electrolytes get out of whack, that's what fucked up my muscles, and so I was able to keep that good. And like I feel like I pushed the last 30 miles after that gas station. I felt like I sprinted, but it was definitely slower than that. But I was able to go faster. Now moving on to the more interesting part, the mind. The biggest thing, I did not know what hallucinations were before I began this endeavor. I'll just start. I'll go through them. So it started off non-persistent, right? Like I'm sure if you ride mountain bikes, if you've ridden for more than 3 hours, you know what I'm talking about when I say you hear hubs behind me. I heard hubs behind me. I like looked back and there wouldn't be anyone there. Heard riders. I saw riders like in the corners of my eyes and like through trees, but I would focus and they'd disappear. It's very non-persistent. It kind of moved on. I started seeing like animals, like squirrels in the corners of my eyes that I look and they'd not be there. I'd see like deer and stuff, and I'd look and not be there. And then it started getting kind of scary. I remember really vividly. I turned the corner and there's this huge wild boar. It looked like it was the size of a horse. And I turned the corner, I looked at it, I hit my brakes out of fear. And then when I like blinked and shook my head, and it was just leaves. There's like a branch leaning over the trail. And that was the first time it got really scary. And it continued to get scarier as it went on. Another one I remember really vividly was I was riding and there was a branch that was like a foot away from my hand. It was kind of like here, and out of the corner of my eye I saw a dead cat hanging from the branch, like decaying and like fur hanging off it and stuff, and it scared the crap out of me. And I leaned my bike away to try to get my hand away from it, and I looked over and it was just like it was just like some brown leaves hanging off a tree. That's one of the really vivid non-persistent ones I remember. And then they started getting persistent right around Snake Creek Gap. Well, I would sleep to get them to go away. Like I took 25 minutes at mile 170 of just like I slept under an overpass, just straight concrete. I was in a bivvy, which is basically like a waterproof heat reflective sack, and so it's kind of warm and really light. And so I slept under an overpass at mile 170 about. That was after 22 hours of riding, and so I kind of slept through the morning and woke up and it was light and I kept going. And then I slept 17 minutes at 2:15 because This was after the non-persistent cat and the boar and stuff. And I slept here because I started seeing stuff in the rocks. I saw like I would look down, and you gotta focus on the rocks when you're riding, right? And so I'd look down, and it would look like the rock. I'd see like a bottle of kryptonite. It was like this green liquid. I looked at it, and I kind of shook my head, and it was just a rock, right? And so I slept here, and then continuing on, and you can see there's a pretty good 75 miles between these two, and this is when shit went down. This is when it started becoming persistent. I started seeing people pretty persistently. I would see out in the distance, I'd see a person, and I'd focus on them, and they'd always not be moving. They'd be stock still, and they'd be pretty scary to me. I can't think of anything specific about their appearance that'd make them scary. It was just like an old person or something. But I really it was pretty scary to look at them. And as I got closer, I realized, oh, they're a mailbox, or oh, it's like a pile of garbage, or it's like, oh, there's nobody in that car. That's just a headrest and stuff like that. But like I'd be able to focus on these people and look at them from a distance. And finally, I got into the woods at like mile 280 is the hardest section of trail. It starts, and so I got into the woods. I've slept 2 hours, and at that it was like hour 46. So I'd basically done nothing but ride for 46 hours, and I'd slept for 17 plus 25. I'd slept for like about 40 minutes. And so I was in the woods, and one of the scarier ones I had was I started seeing persistent people in white masks up in the trees looking down on me. And like I remember, like there's one specific time where there's 3 people in these 3 trees. They're like standing on top of the trees. Like the trees were cut off 10 feet up, and they're standing on top of the trees and looking down on me. And I remember thinking, I know they're not real, but I gotta look down. Like look down, don't look at them, because when you get scared it gets worse. I knew that. And so I looked up a bit as I came up to him. I looked down as I went by him. I like tried to ignore them, tried to not think about them, and like I kept on seeing these people. I saw one like at ground level, kind of like down like on a rock, like just their head like on a rock looking at me. I saw like more people in the trees. One time I stopped, and I was looking down, and I was messing with my light trying to get it to like point in a better direction, and I saw someone that was like a foot away from me, and I jumped, and I like jerked away, and I looked at him, and it was just like a bush. And then as I went on, like I just wanted to get out of the woods, because I was like, this is like super scary, right? I was legitimately scared. I'm 18 years old, and I was scared of the dark because I was seeing things in the dark. And then as I went on, this was one that I was like completely convinced was real. I like the people I didn't I knew they weren't real, but I started seeing like drug paraphernalia. I saw like a needle, and I saw needles and like sponges, these really weird sponges, and like these like little like medicine vials and other random things I couldn't identify, like bandages and stuff, floating in a river. And I crossed it, and I was like, and I remember as I went on the trail, I saw more needles, but all the other drug stuff started kind of fade away as I moved on, and there's more and more of these sponges and these like white, these like pale white, like kind of peach colored almost, sponges everywhere. And they just like, there's so many of them. And I was trying to figure out, I was like, what the are these drug addicts doing with these sponges? And I was kind of getting scared, because I was like, oh, what if they're here and they rob me for money for more drugs? And so I kept going on. I was like, are these like car parts? Are they ripping apart cars out here? And I went on. I remember stopping, and I was like, holy shit, is this hallucination? And I kicked one of the sponges, and it was just like a rock. And it was a certain type of rock I was looking at that my brain had convinced that was like sponges that drug addicts were using. And that is like the most vivid one I had. That's the only one that I knew, like I had no idea that it was like a hallucination. I thought it was an actual thing. Well, there's actually one other like that. And I think, and this is one I'm like even not sure about even right now. I think that I hallucinated a baby black bear running across the road, and I remember seeing it, and thinking it was real, and yelling at it to scare it away, and then getting out of there because thinking there's a mama. And even after I finished, I was telling people about how I saw a baby black bear, but I don't think it was real. Like in hindsight, thinking about the memory, I don't think it was real. I think I was just yelling at my hallucinations out in the road. Thank God no one else was there, because they would have thought I was crazy, maybe pulled me. Yeah, another really vivid one I had, which was earlier before the masked people and stuff, was the wild boar the size of a horse returned, but this time it vividly jumped across the trail. And I remember getting out of there because I was scared that there was more. Yeah, and after I saw the drugs, I slept for an hour and a half at mile 300. And after that, there was pretty much no hallucinations because I was able to do the last 68 miles pretty much during the day. It got dark at the end, but I did it pretty much during the day. Yeah. And during this time, I wasn't feeling tired, but I could feel that I was tired. I was becoming more delusional. Me and this guy were talking as we're walking up Stanley Gap, and we'd both been going for 22 hours with no sleep at this point. This is earlier in the race, and we were talking about how we couldn't pass a sobriety test, and we were both speaking in slurred speech and stuff. It's what I imagine being drunk or high feels like, and I've never been either of those things, but that's what I imagine it to be. Walking was really hard, but riding wasn't as hard, which is kind of opposite as what you'd expect. When I was walking, I'd slip all over the place, and it didn't help that it was on a trail and I was in mountain biking cleats, but I'd constantly slip and almost fall and stuff. But riding wasn't that bad. It was kind of I don't know, riding was more automatic for me, just because I think I'd been doing it for that long. My brain was just used to it. Time went really, really fast. That first 22 hours that I did without sleep felt like a 3-hour ride in terms of time. It's just you're just not focused on the end. You're not focused on anything. You're having tons of fun. Everyone out there is so nice. You're just talking to people. I remember stopping at this store called Cooper Creek Camp Store at 3 a.m. and there's 10 other riders there, and we're all hype as fuck, and starting to get tired. And we bought a lasagna, or I bought lasagna, and afterwards I sat down, had a Coke inside, kind of warmed up, and then I went out and got back on the bike. Yeah, and I had a pair of AeroShocks, those weird bone conduction headphones. Not actual bone conduction, but that's a different subject. But I listened to those until they ran out of battery. I did it in two kind of stints. I listened to them until I got tired of it, and I put them back on. I listened to them again until they ran out of batteries, and then I just did the rest without it. So I probably listened to music for 10 hours or something like that. You don't really need music or anything, because your brain just kind of shuts down slowly when you're doing something that monotonous. You just kind of stop focusing, and your brain slows down, and you get into kind of the state where you're just riding and you don't gotta think about anything. I found I had very little, not that many thoughts, because normally I've done 100 miles. I've done 152 miles, and I've spent 13 hours on my bike. And normally my head is just full of thoughts the whole time, but it was weird. It was my brain slowed down and I couldn't think of anything. Yeah, and being with people made things much better. I did not hallucinate that much when I was with people. Things weren't scary when I was with people. I think I would have hallucinated way worse when I was talking to those people of that about being intoxicated. I think at that point, I would have had really, really bad hallucinations if I wasn't with those people. And everyone was super nice. They had this thing called Trail Magic, where people could set up booths and give you stuff. It's a self-supported race, so you're not supposed to get things from people. You're not supposed to ask for it, but people set up booths, and they're allowed to set up booths and give everybody things, and like super nice people. This guy named KT saved my and like at like mile 310, he's like absolutely saved my ass. I would have been without him, but he was just right spot. He let me charge my Garmin, get water and stuff. But yeah, like, it's a super crazy experience, and if you're watching this for advice on how to do it, I think there's some good stuff in here. I think that it's easier than you think it is. It was for me, at least, because in my head it was like this impossible thing, and it really it's very possible once you get off of Wolfpin Gap, which is like mile 120, I think. About it's very possible from that point if you can do the rest of that. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This is the last TNGA video, but I did release another TNGA video today, so go if you want to check out how my gear worked throughout this adventure. And also, I released a video about released it before TNGA about my setup, so if you want to watch those, I'll put them in the end card or something. And thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, like it. If you subscribed it, subscribe it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.